All right, to help us out through all this, joining us now, former Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, my favorite. John, thank you for this. Very timely to have you here. Let me just get, first of all, I got a million things to ask you, but John, what's your readout of this readout, or what do you think happened there?
Yeah, well, like you, Larry, I'm always rooting for the U.S. president against our adversaries, but sometimes the pictures are worth 1,000 words, and my first impressions of all of this is that Vladimir Putin got much more out of today than our side did. I saw a picture of Vladimir Putin sitting by himself confidently at a table. I saw a picture of Joe Biden waving at him from a table where he was surrounded by a bunch of, I'll just be kind, helpers. And so, but beyond that mental image, the other thing that, struck me about this, Larry, is that Vladimir Putin got something today that the American people haven't gotten. He had 2 hours of dialogue that was unscripted with the American president. As you know, Larry, much of what we see as Americans from Joe Biden is him squinting at a teleprompter, reading statements and then not taking questions, or if he does, highly choreographed. Vladimir Putin, an ex-KGB case officer, the value of being able to, I can tell you from the U.S. intelligence standpoint, when we look at foreign leaders, we look at every tick, every tremor, every bobble, every stutter, every gaffe. All of that goes into a differential diagnosis about a president, about his physical condition, about his mental condition, about his decision-making process. All of those things, and Vladimir Putin got that for 2 hours today. So, there's no telling what he took away from this. We only know that Jake Sullivan came out and told the American people his version of the meeting between the two, which really gets to one of my biggest concerns, is that Joe Biden's got to start acting like the American president. We don't need to hear from Jake Sullivan on this. If Joe Biden spoke with Vladimir Putin, we should hear from Joe Biden what he told him, face to face, eye to eye, through a Zoom call. And we didn't get that today. Instead, we got the guy who was the architect of the worst military disaster of our lifetime, the humiliating Afghanistan withdrawal and surrender, telling us, we're planning on this, we've got this, don't worry. And that didn't provide me any comfort, and I don't think most Americans would see that way either.
John Ratcliffe, was this meeting necessary, important? I mean, I learned from Reagan, having all these meetings, not necessarily a good thing. I'm not sure what the purpose of this meeting is, because, John, let me just put another clause onto this. Everything I'm hearing from Mr. Sullivan and the White House readout and so forth is, if Putin invades Ukraine, okay, there'll be consequences. There'll be economic sanctions. There'll be banking sanctions. There'll be this. There'll be that. But what's 175,000 troops? That's not exactly chopped liver. I don't know what the intel is telling you, but the chances of a war is significant. And by the by, Russia still controls Crimea, which nobody did anything about and doesn't look like it's even part of the discussion. Even Mr. Sullivan said, well, we're going to do what we didn't do 7 years ago. I don't know what that means. So I'm just saying, John, why have a meeting? I mean, I can see this at the Assistant Secretary of State level, all right, or Blinken's talking to Lavrov at the foreign minister level, but why the two presidents?
Yeah, so I think, your point on the intelligence, there was very specific intelligence about 175,000 troops, an invasion in the early part of 2022 into Crimea. So that intelligence was very specific, that was obtained or intercepted. And it's consistent with the history, as you talked about. The last time Putin started to amass troops at that level, he did take Crimea. Mm-hmm. So the threat was very real. But to your earlier point, Larry, the thing that, instead of this Zoom meeting to talk about and then not tell us specifically what was said, but vaguely talk about sanctions and measures and all of these things, Larry, you and I sat in the Situation Room and talked about Nord Stream 2 a lot, mm-hmm. and the strategic value of that. The leverage that Joe Biden should be asserting on world leaders should have been on Angela Merkel, not on Vladimir Putin today. As this issue arose, having the Germans not certify and put into place Nord Stream 2 as a functioning gas pipeline is something that even Vladimir Putin wouldn't be able to overcome and would stand down. So, instead of a phone call after the fact with Angela Merkel and other world leaders. By the way, the irony of that, I mean, it's Merkel is the one who put Ukraine in a worse position by hurting their economy, depriving them of transit fees as a result of this Nord Stream 2 pipeline. The leverage was there before this meeting. The meeting didn't need to take place. We could have communicated that Nord Stream will not move forward unless and until Putin and Russia stand down in Ukraine.
Right.
It's pretty simple.
Right. I mean, I don't know why Biden, before the meeting, doesn't back the amendment, which is on the floor of the Senate, that would restore the Nord Stream 2 sanctions on everything. All right, whatever's left to be built, the last 50 or 100 miles. But, bankers, insurance companies, oil drillers, producers, and so forth. It's right there. I mean, that would have put Putin on notice, because McCain is right. I mean, it's just one big gas station. That's their whole economy. Or, John, one other thing. Why don't Biden help our producers and drillers to drill and produce, put more oil on the market, bring the price down? Not only does that help American business, consumers, and motorists, John Ratcliffe, but that hurts Russia, because they'll get fewer revenues. That's a great way to go after Russia. I didn't do any of that stuff.
Well, none of this foreign policy that we've seen from the Biden administration makes much sense in any regards. And that's what I think is troubling out of this, is no matter what Jake Sullivan says or what press releases they come about, that they put out saying about what they're going to do, until we see actions that are consistent that this administration cares about national security, Vladimir Putin and our adversaries, President Xi in China and others, aren't going to believe him. And, when you ask the Congress to pass trillions of dollars in new spending, but not a single dollar of that is an increase at the Department of Defense or at the Department of Homeland Security to protect our own border, you're sending a message that you don't care about national security. And if you don't think our adversaries are paying attention to that, you're wrong, because they are, and they're going to move until we prove decisively with action instead of words that we care about national security. And from Afghanistan to the Middle East to Russia and to China, the Biden administration has failed every test in that regard, and we're going to see provocation and aggression as a result of that.
Of course, you can bet that Xi and China and the Politburo and so forth are watching this confrontation with a microscope. I mean, there's this got the Taiwan thing going. I mean, he's not only negotiating with Putin, it seems to me, John Ratcliffe, he's negotiating with Xi indirectly.
Absolutely. We've talked about this. Unprecedented aggression by China with respect to Taiwan, and knowing full well that if the United States is preoccupied with an issue in Europe with Ukraine and a Russian invasion there, what better time for the Chinese to move? This is something the intelligence community and folks in the Department of Defense that worked for me previously say, is a real concern now. And again, this is a ripple effect of what happened in Afghanistan and what's happening around the world as a result of a de-emphasis on national security issues and our military. Again, I think this is just going to unfortunately continue. Let's hope that as a result of this, President Biden is successful and the Russians back down. But if not, we've seen red lines crossed the last time Joe Biden was in the White House with Barack Obama over and over again. And I'm afraid we're seeing that all over again.
Just a couple things, Jen. I'm going to let you go. I'm sorry to monopolize you, but it's too great to have you here on this particular day. You go back, you are still a House member, and I was still a private sector TV broadcaster. But in 2017, Trump met with Xi at Mar-a-Lago, okay? And they had a lovely dinner. Again, I wasn't there. I don't think you were there. Maybe you were, but I was. So they had this lovely dinner, and after dinner, they had Trump's favorite dessert, which is a chocolate cake, some kind of chocolate cake. Do you remember this? And meanwhile, as they were eating their chocolate cake, the United States bombed Syria airports to stop them from gassing their people and slaughtering their people. Now,
59 Tomahawk missiles.
There you go. So, see that? You're top of the line. Now, that dessert bombing got Xi's attention, I would reckon. Now, I don't know that anything like that has happened with this Biden-Putin meeting today.
Well, the point, Larry, is in our time there, people have asked me, how would President Trump have responded to this? And the answer is we don't know, because it never happened. It wasn't going to happen. It happened when President Obama and Vice President Biden were there, and now it's happening again. It didn't happen because there was that, you can call it respect, you can call it fear, you can call it whatever you want. The bottom line is that our adversaries were, I'll just say it, they were afraid to move against the United States. They were well heeled. That was Russia, that was China, that was Iran. You look at Iran. In 10 short months, Larry, they were broke. Their economy was it was a country that was bankrupt. That we had killed, the top terrorist leader from that nation. And now, just 10 short months later, they're conducting nuclear talks with the American government, literally sitting like kids at the card table at Thanksgiving in another room, waiting for the adults to come out and tell them how those negotiations are going. That's how quickly things have turned around, and that's a result of leadership in the White House and a perception from our adversaries that there is no strength there, and that they can do what they want, and that they will take what they want. And we're seeing that all around the world, unfortunately.
And John, because of all those linkages and entanglements, which is what they are, everything moves around the chessboard. Russia, Iran, China, Taiwan, and so forth. To me, those are reasons why the two top dogs should not have met. We were not ready for that meeting. We did not have purpose. We did not have action. We did not have strategy. Just my view, okay? Just the view of a lowly National Economic Council director. I'm not going to tell the DNI any such thing. You're my favorite spook, and this stuff cold. Anyway, John Ratcliffe, you're great. Thank you, sir, for coming on. We appreciate it.
Great to be with you, Larry. Thank you.